Okay, well, Eric, you know that I like napping. So I obviously I don't mind time as well as I should. So, unfortunately, it turns out the weekend of the 19th, or it was either 19th and then the beginning, Monday the 20th or whatever. But the 19th and 20th is when the structure bashing was going on. There's only going to be one more of them, and that's going to be on the 24th. I believe that's Friday the 24th. There's going to be another structure bashing with SLTRN, and yeah. So it turns out I hepped you to the whole thing late because I was late to the whole thing, as I usually am to anything in EVE Online that involves organizing people to go and do something, which is kind of something I thought about with EVE Online, is that one of the things about when people are kind of more beginner and intermediate players of EVE Online like I am, you don't think of the schedule. Like the clock in EVE time doesn't, I don't think about it. I don't add 8 hours to every day when I think about EVE. Like, so that most people are playing according to whatever that is, Reykjavik mean time or whatever. Yeah, so it was just something I was thinking about. And not going to fail you. Yes, I'm going to get my character that's in Silent Coalition over to SLTRN. And I think they operate mostly out of that area of space, out of the Gallente Federation, the Gallente Caldari border zone, whatever it is. And we could fuck around, we could play video games there. We could finally get blown up. We could finally get destroyed over and over again. Because it's time to move a little beyond mining. We're starting to get good enough at the game that Eric was much smarter. He was much more of a experienced video game player. I'm like, that skill sounds cool. I'm gonna train it. And then there'd be another skill, and I'd be like, that skill sounds cool. I'm gonna train it. Where Eric was smart, and he's played enough video games to know, get your character to fly a specific craft. Then they'll have all the requisite skills, and you'll save time. Where I didn't do that. So I ended up with this character that's been bopping around and kind of unable to use any doctrine. Like, it's either the drones or the guns or, it's something. Some doctrine I'm not able to fly. I could use the guns on a Naga, can't fly the Naga. So that's and then it hit me. I'm like, yes, actually that was one of the key things, is I wanted to be able to fly have my main character Ratsuda is the last name, able to fly anything from cruiser and down of any of the main factions. And then because of that, you get the other factions, and then anything outside of that was, if I remember, Triglavian ships, and I have her up to the destroyer class in that. So yeah, it's that's where that's at. And I really want, I want a Triglavian destroyer. That's the Drek, right? The Drekivak. That thing's fucking dope. Dude, that thing is dope. Structure bashing in those things is like, I've seen people structure bash in those. Like, they'll just have a whole crew of them, and they'll just be zapping, like just blasting. And you're like, how is this thing tanking so much damage? Watching Tengus around too. Tengus are crazy, dude. The amount of damage they could do. I just think how much, because every ship in that game even has a way that it kind of handles. And that's, and that's the part that I really am digging now. I'm getting a better and better sense at all of these little subtleties that the developers have put in there, that I'm like, I swear I'm experiencing that. And that's the whole point. You're supposed to swear you're experiencing that. Whether you are or you're not. That's good immersion, you know. I do wish they were able to fix whatever the mechanic is that allows for roaming NPC fleets to appear around like Pocos and stuff like that. Because I like how that's in the Pokémon, because it gives you then something, it gives you like a team hunting kind of experience in a way that I know is supposed to be unique to that area. But it was one of those things where I'm like, that would really be cool if they did that again in more of space. And then there's this part of me that I'm like, it kind of doesn't make sense that they don't. It's a little weird that, like, that you'll go on missions because the pirates are bothering somebody. But the pirates are never bothering a Poco. Like, they never really get into a fight with the major empires. You know, you never see them really fighting. When it seems like you should run into that. You should run into wreckage fields. There should be, like during the Triglavian period, defensive, what do you call them? Oh, the defensive towers that were in the asteroid belts that would blast people or blast bad guys. But if you had bad standings, it would blast you. Somebody I know ran into that. They got into a Triglavian system. Might have been Eric. He goes, I got to the asteroid belt, and something shot me, and then that was it. And I was like, oh shit, yes, they have those crazy defensive towers. Forgot about that. You know, because for me, I had standings, so I hadn't thought about it. And when I was in Mirage Colloid, and so in the Faction Warfare Corps. Okay. Fragrance of the day is Aqua di Gio, but it's a sweet fragrance oil knockoff that is making me feel fucking fabulous. And so I had this kind of peculiar conversation yesterday that it was one of those moments where I really started to think about, okay, this really is a matter of just having the sources. Like, most people don't think like someone who, like, I'm gonna see if that's true. They're not like that. Most people really are very they have their own interests. They have whatever they're interested in, which is as varied as there's sand on the beach. And so this one young man was talking about that, as I had mentioned, he had been on a cruise and he had said a bunch of people got COVID on the cruise, and he had thought it was because people on the cruise had not obeyed some kind of rules. And I was like, oh, well, no, I mean, Elizabeth Warren and Senator Booker just had breakthrough cases of COVID, and they've had all their shots. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that was just in the news. But of course, it's not in the news. No, everyone's going out of their way to not report how bad the vaccine is doing. That the sheer number of people who it doesn't appear, we have no real evidence. This is the thing. We don't have anything independent testing any of this. We have nothing independent, nothing that's like a party that just wants the raw data and is collecting it. We don't have that. What we have are absolutely people trying to sell this new untested technology and sell the idea to people that they should have medicine tested on them. And he as well, he didn't understand. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as free. He thought, there's people who could get it for free. No, they aren't. No insurance, no. Everybody's paying through the fucking nose. Everybody's going to pay in their taxes. You know, I'm realizing that too. A lot of people, they don't get, no, taxation is theft. You should just think that you had your money stolen and a good portion given to somebody undeserving for a purpose that you wouldn't want, you don't like. You should presume that. But then I thought about it. I'm like, boom, that's the issue. Presuming the worst. That was kind of a part of the red pill like revolution that took over the last 7 to 8 years, is the presumption of the absolute worst. Is that at first it started as people just being a bit naive, people having possibly, you know, just their interests where their interests were, and their interests didn't necessarily align with, you know, whoever is perceiving it. But then it fell far beyond that, where it was like, oh no, there's a lot of people with absolutely contemptuous views of most of their neighbors and their countrymen, and they would do anything to you if they had the power, and they're just waiting for it. And that's what the red pill people figured out, mostly from literally what feminists were saying, the words they were actually saying. They started to figure out, well, logically, this means that you sort of are a genocidal nut job. What the fuck's wrong with you, bitch? And so, and the red pill world never looked back. So I started thinking about the ramifications of a young man like him finding out, like when I pointed out, Israel has 5 shots. Palestine has no cases. Palestine can't afford any shots. Are you figuring this out yet, Broham? So, and Israel's paying $60 per shot, while America is paying $12.60 per shot, from what is known so far. So, and then I had to tell him about, oh, well, because the Israeli system, there's only 4 HMOs, everybody's a part of an HMO, and most importantly, the only people who wouldn't be a part of an HMO would be some small section of the Arab Palestinians and the very super religious, ultra-Orthodox. And they live in absolutely controlled areas. Like it, even though it's the idea of like, I'm safe in my castle. Yes, but we know when you leave. And so I had to, and I could tell like I was stealing his innocence. Like something, it was, as I was saying this, he's growing older, horror was forming in his face as he started to realize, like, wait a second, wait, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, you can find this right on Google. You know, you can just put it right into Google. They're really not hiding it very well. They don't have to anymore, you know. People aren't asking questions. Wow, that's fucking cool. It's one part of the slough. Finally got enough dieback that you get to see how they actually structured it so that it would slow the water down. It's kind of neat. I probably saw that before, and I just didn't really see it from this perspective. That's what I, probably saw it before, just a change in perspective. Oh, wicked old men. Wicked old red-pilled men. Yeah, let me show you guys. Yeah. So yes, that's the other thing I thought, what was it? Oh, dang it. It was Zero Hedge has been cracking. Zero Hedge has been cracking over the last like 3 or 4 days. They've just had dope ass drops that were coming from Summit News, from all these other sites. Yeah, so now the other thing that, and really especially with them like really celebrating the crushing defeat that Manchin has brought on them, and that they're really this got brought up by somebody on YouTube that it was, oh yes, Black Conservatives Perspective channel, that he actually brought up this issue where he's like, you could have approached Manchin at least as, well, we agree to disagree. But no. What did his own party do? Manchin's own party has now come after him in a way that is totally untoward. That is just simply, it has nothing to do with this idea of, representation of the civis or any of that. And especially, I like, one of the best parts was to see Ilhan Omar really look like this stupid whore bitch that she is. I mean, like, she's like, I think it is bullshit. And da-da-da. And I'm just like, God damn, I love seeing you lose. You fucking bitch. It was just, the fact that, like, that obviously, like, this is FBI, INS, something like the CIA. There is a type of congressional security service, if I remember correctly. All of them are in on whatever's going on with Ilhan Omar and never looking into what anyone can tell is some form of immigration fraud. And it's because it would break open whatever we were doing in Somalia at the time that we got all these Somali gangsters to move here, and former revolutionaries and communist pieces of shit to come here and then hide, hide among the fucking sheep. And it's and that's what, to me, that's absolutely what the deal is with Omar right now. We're trying to hide some dirty secret in Somalia that we were involved in. And just like we're desperate to never discuss how why there's so many Ukrainian Americans involved in the Ukraine thing. Why isn't it just that there was like they have their junta, America implies support, but no, why are there a bunch of Americans of Ukrainian descent by 2 generations in Ukraine in their government right away? And the dirty little secrets that we're trying to cover up, and we're paying people off like generationally, and it's like mobsters, like mobster families. The fact that the right has now seen this, and this is something that nobody would believe from like the white Anglo-Saxon perspective. After World War II, you simply were not allowed to bring things like this up, and to presume the worst about people. This was not done. It was untoward, unseemly. But now we get it. Now it's like, no, you have to figure the women are spoiled, don't really understand what it takes to keep society running, and that their contempt for men really comes out of an envy, because and a natural tendency toward depression and misery. That there has to be now the presumption made. No, the criminal class enjoys being the criminal class, just like the addicts enjoy taking the drugs. This must be what it is, and there's no way back. Society's not going to turn back around to hippie shit. We're not going to fucking embrace this idea of, oh, if we just gave the junkies more money, if we just gave the criminals more money, if we just gave the women more opportunities and attention, no, none of this will ever improve anything. And the only thing that will improve behavior is taking shit away. Just like Wes Watson said. And presuming the worst about people, one of the things about it, there's JC from Wrong to Strong was really the person who made me start to really rethink what I was, like how I was living my life. what had I held on to from my past. Stefan Molyneux helped in this, but JC made me really understand, like, homie, you were never a tough guy. You always knew that. And as you get old, you need to embrace that you were never a tough guy. You were just somebody willing to work hard. There's much tougher men out there. And you gotta always remember this. And he's the one who really made me look at myself in that way. That no, see yourself as a weak creature. God is strong. You are weak. Always remember that. Eternity is eternity. You love naps. Yeah. So, one of the things that I've been rolling this around in my mind is the right wing, the left wing, all of this, the ramifications of what's coming are something I think now at this stage only the right wing is really in any way kind of culturally prepared for. I don't think people who are moderates, the normies, or the left of center are in any way, shape, or form prepared really for what is coming. A change in perspective that the boomers are not going to be able to deal with this. There's already even things about conservative and Republican boomers. Is one of you got in touch with me? You know what I'm talking about. Nietzsche, yeah. The person on the Discord who goes by Nietzsche got in touch with me about this. And this has been my contention for some time. There's going to be a normie and a moderate sort of end. The moderates, as Piero San Giorgio said, the center did not hold. And that's it. The center did not hold. And now it's only time. And it's coming. That first you will see small, this incremental changes in perspective on each side of politics, and then after that, it's only going to get more and more extreme. Dang, I want to sneeze. That's also another person I actually sort of have to thank, because people have asked me about, like, what changed your perspective? That speech, Piero San Giorgio, the center will not hold. Because as some of you know who Piero San Giorgio was, he was an excavator. He basically dug for oil. And his whole speech was, the center cannot hold because our present expenditure to extraction and extraction to production do not balance. And he's like, at some point, somebody's going to be left holding the bag. And that's when all of society is going to start scrambling in one way or another. And what was interesting is he's from Switzerland, and his entire mentality was quite different than who he's speaking to. And those of you who end up finding this, if it still is up on YouTube someplace, most likely hopefully it's been transferred to something like BitChute, because those of you who know what organization he was speaking at will be like, wow, Donovan was watching them back then. Oh yeah. Don't fake the funk. Keep the funk real, So that's what that was one of the major changes, is that as it became more and more clear somebody was going to have to pay the piper for the tune, that everybody was going to start, the entire civilized world was going to have to start turning on each other, even though, and really, once again, that incredible irony, whenever liberals, shit-libs, globalists, communists, socialists, the inordinately smiling and polite dummies and normies have some new catchphrase about, say, unity, or if we all got together yada yada yada. Oh my god, this Acqua di Gio is killing me. Feels so good. I'm like in this world of like lemon balm and soapy Calgon. It's incredible. So yeah, I started to see how no, there won't be a because it was San Giorgio, and then stumbling on George Friedman's book. So George Friedman of Stratfor, so the strategic forecasts guy, who by the time I find his book, kind of remembered the name. And I'm like, wait, this name is familiar. And then of course I looked up later and I'm like, oh, Anonymous hacked this guy's organization because it's strategic forecasts. How do you plan on what you invest in based on small skirmish wars across the world? That's who this guy is. And his book's amazing. His book is really good. It looks like the Obama administration thought it was a playbook. Unfortunately. But which it does make a lot of sense for the period of time it came out. So it's one of these that with Piero San Giorgio made me change a lot of what I thought. It wasn't just Stefan Molyneux. I started to find the sources that I needed to then get my own insight on this. And so that's why I started to really like once Quod Verum once those guys, especially Thomas Wichter, was talking about no, Israel is making inroads with all of these people, all these countries that are in the Gulf Cooperation Council. And then Trump brings up Gulf Cooperation Council and is the only person on the planet who will say those words. That's when I knew. I'm like, that is the new deal. That's what's going on. And no one wants to admit it because they're afraid. They fucked up. They bet on something else and that horse crapped out. A long shot kicked the bucket. And so, yeah. And the Israel GCC thing is going to win. Because that's actually what people in the region want. And so it was interesting. And then it got confirmed by Ryan Dawson. That Ryan Dawson he's not a fan of the Quad Forum bunch. Or Quad Verum bunch. But what he said made me realize, yes, Quad Verum are accurate in their estimation of this. That there is some deal going on. Israel's doing something bigger with the various large powers of the Middle East. Apparently now the Sunnis. And Syrian Girl also made me kind of confirm this as well. Now, some of you might wonder, what's your stake in that? None. I am now at the stage of, I don't give a fuck about their falafel, their shawarma, their latha, their anything. I don't care. I don't care about their schnitzel. I don't care about none of it anymore. There is way too much to be worried about here. Way too much. And that's why also one of the ramifications of what's coming is the Republican who says that Israel this, Israel that next. Nobody's gonna bite. No, nobody cares anymore in a major way of not wanting to be involved. It's not our fight. It's not our country. They keep making clear we aren't their people and they aren't our people. No. We don't care. And one of the beauties that's Manchin opened this up in a way that now nobody who's conservative or Republican, the ramifications of this is they have to save money. Look, the Democrat can. Oh, it's gonna be so good. We go, what? You can't. Manchin stood up against all this spending. Why can't you? You don't even want this spending. You were elected to oppose this. That's the beauty of what's coming. The next Republican that says, I am going to MRF out the federal government, I'm going to come up behind it, and I'm going to walk up to it, I'm going to wrap my arm, put my elbow right up against the collarbones, I'm going to wrap my arm around it, I'm going to get under that armpit, I'm going to MRF the fuck out of the federal government. That's the guy who's going to win. The person who basically says, none of you trust the federal government any longer. There's nobody you can trust. There's no bureau you have faith in. Let's MRF this bad boy out. Let's make these people find let's fire these people, because that's it. Everything hinges on the amount of human labor you have to pay. That's what it really is. A lot of those departments could have their shit sold off, but first you got to get those fucking people out of their desks, and that's it. First Republican who takes that approach, first conservative, first nationalist that takes this approach, that would be First Nationalist Bank. I don't know why that came into my mind, but first person who does that, they win. All right, gotta go.